5 minutes. That's all I was given to clear my desk before my husband's father fired me in front of the entire leadership team. But when I smiled and said thank you, 20 people stood up and followed me out. Will sneered, until the legal director went pale and whispered, "Get the lawyer. Now." I should probably back up. My name is Rowena Vale, though back then I was still trying to convince myself that name meant something. That morning started like any other Thursday at Valemont Industries. Coffee at 7 a.m. Emails answered before anyone else arrived. The usual dance of keeping a company running while everyone else took credit. I'd been doing that dance for 5 years. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. The meeting notice came at 9:47 a.m. Executive Leadership Assembly. Mandatory. Conference room A, 10 a.m. No agenda. No context. Just a command wrapped in corporate speak. I should have known something was wrong. My husband will barely looked at me that morning. He'd left early, mumbling about prep work. His father Martin, the CEO, had been cold to me for weeks. Every idea I pitched got shot down. Every success I had got quietly reassigned to someone else's column. But I'm a quiet person. I observe. I calculate. I don't make noise until I'm ready. The conference room was packed. 23 people crammed around that massive oak table Martin loved showing off. Every department head. Every senior manager. They all looked uncomfortable, like kids forced to watch their parents fight. Martin stood at the head of the table. Will beside him, both wearing matching expressions of rehearsed authority. Rowena. Martin's voice could freeze water. After careful board consideration, we're restructuring operations. Your position has been terminated. Effective immediately. The room went silent. Someone gasped. I heard nervous shuffling. You have 5 minutes to clear your desk. Security will escort you out. 5 minutes. For 5 years of late nights. For the logistics system I'd built from scratch. For the sustainability project that saved them millions. For every idea they'd stolen and every victory they'd erased. Will wouldn't look at me. He was studying his cufflinks. The ones I'd given him for our 3rd anniversary. Silver with his initials. I noticed something else. Diana Crow, the legal director, had her hands pressed flat against the table. Her knuckles were white. Her eyes were locked on the wood grain like it held secrets. That's when I knew. This wasn't sudden. This wasn't business. This was planned, calculated, personal. They expected me to cry, to beg, to make a scene that would justify their cruelty. Instead, I smiled. Not a sad smile. Not a brave smile. A knowing smile. The kind that says I see the whole board while you're still moving pawns. Thank you, I said softly. It's been enlightening. I stood, straightened my blazer, picked up my bag. Behind me, a chair scraped. Then another. Then 5 more. 20 people stood up. Engineers. Analysts. The entire logistics team. People who'd worked beside me in the trenches while we took bows on stage. They didn't say anything. They just followed. Will's sneer came quick. Let them go. They'll crawl back when they remember where real power lives. I stopped at the door. Turned back. Power doesn't come from titles, Will. It comes from knowing where everything is buried. His face went gray. Because here's what they didn't know. What nobody knew except my lawyer and me. 2 weeks before this meeting, I'd filed for legal separation. Before they fired me, I'd already transferred ownership of key contracts. The sustainability project Will claimed as his masterpiece. Every patent, every licensing agreement, every federal grant application was registered under my name through a new company I'd quietly formed. Nova Vale Consulting. And those 20 people who walked out? They weren't random. They were the backbone. The people who actually made things work. Without them, Valemont Industries was just expensive furniture and empty promises. As the elevator doors closed, I saw Diana sprint toward Martin's office. My phone buzzed 3 hours later. Diana's name lit up the screen. What happens when a company built on stolen credit realizes the real architect just walked out the door? What happens when revenge isn't loud or messy, but surgical and silent. Let's just say Martin Vale was about to learn an expensive lesson about underestimating quiet people. Diana's voice cracked through the phone. Rowena, we need to talk. Not as legal director. As someone who's watched this family destroy good people for 20 years. I was sitting in my car, still in the Valemont parking garage. Engine off. Hands steady on the wheel. I'm listening. They're celebrating upstairs. Martin ordered champagne. Will's telling everyone how he finally cut the dead weight. But Rowena...
She paused.
The federal sustainability grant. The one funding next quarter's entire expansion. It requires your signature for renewal. Will can't access it. I let the silence stretch. When does it expire? I asked. 48 hours. I heard shouting in the background. Martin's voice. Loud enough to rattle phone speakers. Diana, are you still there? He just saw the contract details. He's asking why your name is on everything. Why the trademark filings list you as primary owner. Rowena, what did you do? What did I do? I protected myself. While they were busy erasing me from company photos and patting themselves on the back, I was filing paperwork, documenting everything, building an exit strategy they never saw coming. I did what any smart person does when they see a storm coming, I said. I built shelter. The phone went dead. 20 minutes later, my new team was sitting in a coffee shop 3 blocks away. 20 faces. Some scared. Some angry. All loyal. Marcus, my lead engineer, spoke first. So what now? We all just torched our careers for a dramatic exit.
No.
I pulled out my laptop. You torched your careers for equity. I turned the screen around. Nova Vale Consulting. Incorporation documents. Partnership agreements, with their names already listed. I filed this company 2 months ago. Every major client Valemont has. I've been their actual point of contact for years. They know my voice. My work. Not Will's press releases. Zara, my logistics coordinator, leaned forward. You're saying we're not unemployed. We're entrepreneurs. I'm saying we're free. Marcus grinned. When do we start? We already did. That night, I sat alone in my apartment. Not the penthouse I'd shared with Will. My old place. The one I'd kept just in case. Small.
Quiet. Mine.
My lawyer called at 11 p.m. The separation filing went through. Dated 2 weeks before your termination. That means every contract will signed on your behalf after that date is legally questionable. The sustainability grants. The federal partnerships. All of it. How long before they figured out? Based on Martin's 17 angry voicemails? I'd say they already have. I slept better that night than I had in 5 years. Morning brought chaos. My phone exploded with messages. Blocked numbers. Unknown callers. Then one I recognized.
Will.
I let it ring. 8 times. Then I answered. Rowena. His voice was different.
Smaller.
We need to talk. Face to face. This is insane. What's insane, Will? That I protected my own work? Or that you never thought I would? You don't understand what you're doing. Dad's furious. The board is panicking. Clients are asking questions. Good. Maybe they'll finally ask the right person. This is my family's company, and I was your family's workhorse. Past tense. Silence.
Then.
What do you want? There it was. The question I'd been waiting for. I want you to tell me the truth. When did you decide to throw me away? Before or after you stole my project? More silence. Rowena, it wasn't personal. Dad said the optics were bad. Having you in leadership while we're married. Shareholders were asking questions about nepotism. I laughed. Actually laughed. Nepotism. That's rich. I earned every promotion before I even met you. I know. But perception matters more than reality. You know that. I do now. So, what happens next? You're really going to destroy everything we built? No, Will. I'm going to build something better. You're going to watch. I hung up. By noon, 3 major clients had reached out. Not to Valemont.
To me. Directly.
By 3 p.m., Diana sent a text. Martin's calling an emergency board meeting. They're bringing in outside counsel. This is bigger than you think. By 5 p.m., I had my first official NovaVale contract signed. With Vailmont's biggest competitor. What happens when the person you erased holds every password, every client relationship, and every piece of leverage you forgot to protect? What happens when quiet people stop being quiet and start being strategic? Martin Vale was about to find out that firing me wasn't the end of his problems. It was the beginning of his nightmare. The emergency board meeting happened on a Tuesday. I wasn't invited. But I didn't need to be there to know exactly what was happening inside that room. Diana called me at 2:37 p.m. Her voice was barely a whisper. They're hemorrhaging. 3 clients pulled contracts this morning. The Federal Grant Committee sent a formal inquiry. Martin's lawyer just told him the separation filing makes Will's authority questionable on every deal signed in the last 2 weeks. How's Will handling it? He threw a chair. I smiled. Not from cruelty. From validation. For years, I'd watched him throw credit around like confetti while I did the actual work. Now he was throwing furniture because the work had walked out with me. Diana, why are you telling me this? She was quiet for a moment. Because I should have warned you. I knew they were planning it. Martin pulled me aside 3 weeks ago, asked about legal exposure if they terminated you. I told him it was clean if they followed procedure. I didn't know about the separation filing. I didn't know you'd protected yourself. Would you have told me if you did? Honestly? I don't know. But I'm telling you now. They're going to come after you. Martin's talking about litigation. Breach of contract. Theft of intellectual property. He's angry, Rowena. And angry rich men are dangerous. Let them come. I've got receipts for everything. That night, my phone lit up with a name I hadn't expected. Martin Vale. Not Will. The CEO himself. I stared at the screen. Let it ring 4 times. Then answered. Mr. Vale. His voice was cold steel. You've made your point, Rowena. Very clever. Very calculated. Now, let's talk like adults. I'm listening. What's your price? Everyone has one. Name it. We'll write the check. You sign over the contracts, return to Vailmont, and we'll pretend this unfortunate misunderstanding never happened. Unfortunate misunderstanding. That's what he called public humiliation. There's no price, Martin. Because I'm not for sale anymore. Don't be naive. You think 20 employees and a startup can compete with Vailmont? We have resources. Connections. We'll bury you in legal fees before you land your second client. Then why are you calling? Silence. Long enough to hear him breathing. Because you're costing me money.
And reputation.
And I don't like either. Good. Now you know how it feels. This isn't personal, Rowena. It's business. You fired me in front of 23 people to humiliate me. You let your son steal my work for years. You erased my contributions from every report and press release. But sure, Martin. Not personal. I gave you opportunities most people only dream about.
No.
I earned every single one. And you took credit. So, this is revenge.
No.
This is justice. There's a difference. I hung up before he could respond. The next morning, a letter arrived. Legal letterhead. Vailmont Industries versus Rowena Vale. Cease and desist. Breach of contract. Theft of proprietary information. They were suing for everything. My lawyer read it over coffee. Then laughed. This is garbage. They're fishing. They don't have a case, but they're hoping you'll panic and settle. What do? We respond. Professionally. And we remind them that you filed for separation before termination, which means you were legally entitled to protect your independent work. Then we wait. Wait for what? For them to realize they're not fighting you. They're fighting themselves. 2 days later, the first article dropped. Business Insider. Vailmont Industries faces client exodus amid leadership shakeup. The reporter had done their homework. Quoted anonymous sources. Mentioned my sudden termination. Listed the clients who'd quietly moved their business elsewhere. Someone had leaked the story. Someone inside Valemont. My money was on Diana. Will called that night.
Drunk.
Angry. Desperate. You leaked it. You're trying to destroy us. I didn't leak anything, Will. Your company is falling apart because it was built on stolen work and false credit. That's not my fault. You were my wife. And you were supposed to be my partner. Guess we both got that wrong.
He was crying now.
Actually crying. Dad's threatening to remove me from a succession plan. He says I embarrassed the family. That I should have controlled you better. Controlled. Like I was a pet. A problem. An asset to manage. Will, you never controlled me. You just convinced yourself you did. There's a difference. What happens when a family business realizes the person they discarded was the only one holding everything together? What happens when karma doesn't come with warning labels? Martin and Will were about to learn that humiliation is expensive. And I was just getting started. The lawsuit collapsed in 6 days. Not because they dropped it. Because their own lawyer told them to. Diana sent me the email chain. Someone had forwarded it to her, and she forwarded it to me with one line. Thought you'd want to see this. The lawyer's words were blunt. Client has no legal standing. Defendant properly filed separation before termination. All intellectual property claims are registered under defendant's independent entity, filed prior to employment termination. Proceeding will result in significant financial loss and public exposure. Recommend immediate withdrawal. Martin's response was 3 words. Find another angle. But there wasn't one. I'd been too careful. Too thorough. Every contract. Every trademark. Every filing had been done correctly, legally, by the book. They couldn't fight me in court. So they tried to fight me in the press. An anonymous source leaked to a business blog that I'd stolen proprietary information and sabotaged company operations. The article painted me as a disgruntled ex-employee with an axe to grind. It lasted 8 hours before 3 of my former colleagues posted receipts. Emails showing I'd created the systems they claimed I'd stolen. Documents proving I'd registered the intellectual property months before my termination. Testimonials from clients who said they'd only worked with Valemont because of me. The blog issued a retraction by midnight. Marcus called me that evening. Boss, we got a problem. My stomach dropped. What kind? The good kind. We have 7 companies requesting proposals. All former Valemont clients. We're a 4-week-old company with 20 employees. We can't handle this volume yet. I exhaled. Then we hire.
Fast.
Can you handle recruitment? Already started. I've got 15 interviews lined up for tomorrow. Novavale was growing faster than I'd planned. Faster than I'd hoped. And every new client was a knife in Valemont's balance sheet. 3 weeks after my termination, I got an unexpected visitor. Martin Vale showed up at my office. No warning. No appointment. Just walked past my assistant like he owned the building. He looked older. Tired. The untouchable CEO mask had cracks. You've made your point, he said. I didn't stand. Didn't offer him a seat. Have I? You're costing me clients. Damaging our reputation. Turning employees against the company. What more do you want? I want you to say it. Say what? That you were wrong. That you underestimated me. That you threw away the best thing your company had because your ego couldn't handle giving credit where it was due. His jaw tightened. Pride warring with desperation. I made a business decision. You made a mistake. And now you're paying for it. He leaned forward. Hands flat on my desk. I could destroy you, Rowena. One phone call. I still have connections. Influence. I could make sure you never work in this industry again. I met his eyes.
Calm. Steady.
Go ahead.
Try.
Because every move you make against me just proves my point. You're not powerful, Martin. You're just loud. And there's a difference. He left without another word. That night, Diana called with news that changed everything. The board voted. Martin's out. Forced retirement. Effective immediately. I nearly dropped my phone. What? Shareholders filed a motion. Said his mismanagement of the Rowena situation cost them millions. Will's been demoted to senior advisor. No executive authority. They're bringing in an outside CEO to clean up the mess. Who leaked to the shareholders? Diana was quiet. Then I did. I sent them everything. Every email. Every document showing how much you actually did. How much they stole. I couldn't watch it anymore, Rowena. I couldn't be part of it. You risked your job. I risked my conscience. There's a difference. 2 days later, the new CEO reached out. Professional. Respectful. Asked if Novavale would consider a partnership. Not acquisition. Not buyout.
Partnership.
I declined.
Politely.
Because some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. They're meant to be lessons. We'll send one final message.
Late.
Drunk again, probably. I'm sorry. For all of it. You deserved better. I read it twice. Then deleted it. Apologies don't undo humiliation. They don't erase years of stolen credit and quiet erasure. But they do confirm what I already knew. I won. Not loudly. Not violently. But completely. What does victory look like when you've been erased, humiliated, and discarded? It looks like watching the empire that betrayed you crumble while you build something better from the ashes. And I was just getting started. 6 months after walking out of Valemont Industries, I stood in front of 300 people at the Regional Leadership Summit. The same event where Martin Vale had given a keynote speech the year before. Where I'd sat in the back row, invisible. Now I was on stage. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. My topic, the power of walking away. The organizers loved it. The audience leaned forward in their seats. And somewhere in the back row, I spotted a familiar face.
Will.
Alone. No entourage. No press.
Just him.
I didn't flinch. Didn't change my speech. I spoke about dignity. About knowing your worth. About the difference between power and authority. You'll meet people who mistake your silence for weakness, I said. Who think quiet means controllable. But silence is a weapon if you know when to use it. And walking away isn't surrender. Sometimes it's the smartest move you'll ever make. The applause was thunderous. After the speech, Will waited by the exit. I considered walking past. But curiosity won.
That was good, he said.
Really good. Thanks. I meant what I said. In that text. I'm sorry. I studied his face. He looked different.
Smaller somehow.
The confidence stripped away. What happened to you, Will? I lost everything. The company. The respect. My father barely speaks to me. And I deserved it. I see that now. What do you want from me? Forgiveness.
No.
I don't deserve that. I just wanted you to know that you were right. About all of it. I nodded. Not because I forgave him, but because his admission didn't matter anymore. My healing hadn't waited for his apology. Good luck, Will. I walked away.
For the second time.
But this time I wasn't running. I was moving forward. Novavale hit 7 figures in revenue by the end of the year. We hired 60 employees. Opened a second office. Landed a government contract that dwarfed anything Valemont had ever touched. My team owned shares. Decisions were collaborative. Success was shared. Everything Valemont wasn't. Diana left Valemont and joined us as general counsel. Marcus became COO. Zara ran operations. The 20 people who'd followed me that day became the foundation of something bigger than any of us imagined. One afternoon, I drove past the old Valemont building. The sign was still there, but half the offices were dark. They'd downsized. Restructured. Survived. Barely. I didn't feel satisfaction. Or vindication. Just peace. Because revenge was never the goal. Building something better was. People still ask if I miss that life.
The prestige.
The corner office. The Vale name. I don't. I built something better. Something honest. Something mine. And that's worth more than any title they could have given me. The lesson isn't about revenge. It's about knowing when to walk away. When to protect yourself. When to stop fighting for scraps at someone else's table and build your own. Quiet people aren't weak. We're strategic. We observe. We calculate. We wait. And when we move, We don't just win. We rebuild. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever been underestimated or erased, drop a comment below. Tell us your story. Share how you turned betrayal into breakthrough. Your words might inspire someone else who's standing at their own crossroads. And if you want more stories about quiet victories, strategic comebacks, and people who refuse to stay erased, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because every week, we bring you real stories of resilience, revenge done right, and justice served cold. Hit that like button if you believe that silence isn't weakness, it's power waiting for the right moment. Share this with someone who needs to hear that walking away isn't giving up. Sometimes it's the bravest thing you can do. Drop your thoughts below. Have you ever had to walk away from something that was destroying you? What happened next? We're building a community of people who know that dignity matters more than titles. That respect is earned, not commanded. That the best revenge is success achieved in silence. Welcome to the family. Your story matters, and we can't wait to hear it. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday morning. Heavy cardstock, gold embossing, the kind of pretentious stationery that screamed old money trying to stay relevant. Valemont Industries cordially invites you to our annual shareholders gala. Black tie, +1 welcome. I stared at it for a full minute, then called Diana. Did you get one of these?
Yeah.
I threw mine in the trash. You? Still deciding. Why would they invite me? Diana laughed.
Dark.
Bitter. Because the new CEO wants to show the shareholders that everything's fine. That bridges are mended. That the woman who nearly destroyed them is now friendly enough to attend their party. Except I'm not.
Exactly.
So, don't go. It's a trap wrapped in fancy paper. But something about that invitation bothered me. Not the invitation itself. The timing. Novavale had just landed a contract with Henderson Tech, massive deal. 3 years. 8 figures. The same company Valemont had been courting for 2 years before I left. The same company that had ghosted them after I walked out. I called Marcus. Did anyone from Valemont reach out to Henderson? Funny you mention that. Their old VP of Business Development sent an email yesterday, asking if we'd consider a joint venture on the Henderson project. Said it would be mutually beneficial. What did you say? Nothing yet. Wanted to check with you first. I thought about it. The gala. The sudden partnership offer. The timing too convenient to ignore. Tell them no. Politely, but firmly. You sure? It's a lot of money on the table. I'm sure.
They don't want partnership.
They want access. Once they're in, they'll find a way to take credit. Again. That night, I did something I hadn't done in months. I looked up Valemont's quarterly reports. Public information. Available to anyone who knew where to look. The numbers told a story their PR team couldn't spin. Revenue down 32%. Client retention at an all-time low. Employee turnover through the roof. 3 senior executives had resigned in 4 months. They weren't recovering. They were drowning. And that gala? It wasn't a celebration. It was a Hail Mary. A desperate attempt to convince investors that the ship wasn't sinking. I made a decision that surprised even me. I was going to that gala. Not to gloat. Not to rub their faces in my success. But because I wanted to see it with my own eyes. The empire that had tried to erase me, scrambling to survive. +1 welcome. I called an old friend. Janet Monroe. Industry legend. Former CEO of 3 Fortune 500 companies. Retired now, but her name still carried weight. Janet, I need a favor. Rowena Vale. Haven't heard from you since you torched that family's kingdom. What's the favor? Want to crash a party with me? She laughed.
Full. Loud.
Oh, this should be good. The gala was exactly what I expected. Crystal chandeliers. String quartet. Waitstaff circulating with champagne that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Everyone who mattered in the industry was there. And the second I walked in with Janet Monroe on my arm, the room shifted. Conversations paused. Heads turned. Whispers rippled like dominoes. Will saw me first. Standing near the bar. He went pale. Nearly dropped his drink. The new CEO, A man named Richard Stanton approached with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Ms. Vale, what a pleasant surprise. Thank you for coming. Mr. Stanton, beautiful event. We're trying to turn a new page. Show our partners and investors that Valemont is committed to moving forward. Stronger than ever. Janet smiled. Sweet as poison. Funny. Your quarterly reports suggest otherwise. His smile tightened. Every company faces challenges. We're confident in our trajectory.
Of course you are, I said.
That's what you tell investors right before the ship sinks. His face flushed. But before he could respond, Martin Vale appeared. Older, grayer, but still carrying himself like royalty. Rowena, I didn't expect to see you here.
Martin.
Lovely party. Must have cost a fortune you don't have. Janet choked on her champagne. Martin's eyes went cold. Still bitter, I see. Not bitter. Just observant. How's retirement treating you? I'm consulting. Staying involved. I'm sure the board loves that. The tension was thick enough to choke on. Around us, people pretended not to listen while hanging on every word. Then Will approached. Hesitant. Nervous. Rowena.
Can we talk?
Privately? I glanced at Janet. She nodded. Will led me to a balcony. City lights stretched below us. The same view I'd had from my old office. Why are you here? He asked. Curiosity. To watch us suffer? To remind myself why I left. He looked broken. Genuinely broken. I know I can't fix what I did. But for what it's worth, I've learned. I see it now. Everything you were. Everything we threw away. Will, I didn't come here for your apology. I came here because I needed to see that I made the right choice. And looking at you now, I know I did. His face crumpled. I lost everything, Rowena. My position. My reputation. Even my father won't look at me the same way. Good. Maybe you'll finally understand what it feels like to be erased. I walked back inside. Found Janet.
And we left.
As we drove away, she turned to me. Feel better? Actually? Yeah, I do. Because closure isn't always about forgiveness. Sometimes it's about seeing your betrayers face the consequences of their choices. And knowing you survived. Thrived. Won. What happens when you walk back into the room that tried to destroy you, not as a victim, but as a victor? What happens when the people who erased you realize you're not just surviving, you're thriving? Martin and Will just got their answer. The fallout from the gala came fast. By Monday morning, 3 industry publications ran stories. Not about Valemont's comeback. About their desperation. Former employees' appearance highlights Valemont's ongoing struggles. Nova Vale founder crashes competitor's gala, reminds everyone who really built the empire. Someone had leaked details of my conversation with Martin. Someone had captured Will's broken expression on the balcony. The narrative Valemont tried to control was slipping through their fingers. Diana called, laughing so hard she could barely speak. Did you see the headlines? I saw them. Rowena, you didn't just show up. You made a statement. The entire industry is talking about it. That wasn't the goal. Maybe not, but it's the result. And it's beautiful. What I didn't expect was the phone call that came Tuesday afternoon. Richard Stanton, the new CEO. His voice was different from the gala. Less polished. More desperate. Ms. Vale, I'd like to meet. Off the record. Why? Because I inherited a mess. And I think you're the only person who knows how to fix it. We met at a neutral location. Small cafe. No photographers. No witnesses. He looked tired, like a man trying to bail water from a sinking ship with a coffee cup. I'll be direct, he said. Valemont is dying. Clients are leaving. Employees don't trust leadership. The board is talking about liquidation if things don't turn around in 6 months. And you think I can help? I think you're the only one who can. You built the systems. You knew the clients. You were the backbone of this company, and the Valas were too stupid to see it. So, what do you want? Me to consult? Train your people? Hand over my proprietary systems? No. I want you to buy us. I blinked. Excuse me? Novavale acquires Valemont. You take the assets worth saving. Rebrand. Restructure. Let the dead weight go. The board will approve it. The shareholders will approve it. Because right now you're the only name in this industry that still means something. You want me to buy the company that fired me. I want you to win.
Completely.
And I want to salvage what's left before the Vala's destroyed entirely. I sat back.
Processing.
What happens to Martin? To Will? They'd be out.
Completely.
No board seats. No consulting roles. No legacy positions. Clean break. And you? I'd stay on if you wanted. Or leave if you didn't. I'm a hired gun, Ms. Vale. I don't have emotional attachments to this sinking ship. I thought about it. The symmetry. The poetry. The absolute poetic justice of owning the company that tried to erase me. But something didn't sit right. No, I said.
No.
I don't want Valemont. I don't want their broken systems or toxic culture or tainted reputation. I built something clean. Something mine. And I'm not contaminating it with their rot. So, you'll just let it die. That's not my responsibility. They made their choices. Now they live with the consequences. He nodded, disappointed but not surprised. Can't blame me for trying. Actually, I respect it. Takes guts to admit you're drowning. As I walked out, I felt lighter. Because I'd been offered the ultimate revenge. The chance to own everything they'd taken from me. And I turned it down. Because some victories aren't about taking. They're about walking away and knowing you don't need what they have. You already built something better. That night, Marcus called with news. Boss, you're not going to believe this. Henderson Tech wants to expand our contract. Double the scope. Triple the budget.
Why?
Because Valemont tried to poach the account. Sent them a proposal claiming they had new leadership and improved systems. Henderson's CEO called me directly. Said if that's how Valemont operates, he wants nothing to do with them. He's moving all his business to us. I smiled. Not from satisfaction. From validation. Because the universe has a funny way of rewarding integrity. What happens when you refuse to play dirty? When you turn down revenge because building something clean matters more than tearing down something rotten? You win anyway. Not because you destroyed your enemies, but because you didn't have to. 3 months after turning down Richard Stanton's offer, the announcement came. Valemont Industries was filing for bankruptcy. Not Chapter 11 reorganization. Chapter 7. Total liquidation. The empire that had stood for 40 years was being dismantled.
Piece by piece.
Asset by asset. Sold to the highest bidder. I read the news over morning coffee. No satisfaction. No joy. Just a quiet acknowledgement that gravity always wins eventually. Diana sent a text. Told you the ship was sinking. Turns out it hit an iceberg named Karma. What surprised me was the call from Martin Vale himself. His voice sounded ancient. Defeated. I suppose you're happy now. I'm not anything, Martin. This wasn't about happiness. You destroyed my family's legacy.
No.
You did that yourself. I just stopped holding it together. Silence. Long, heavy. I underestimated you. You erased me. There's a difference. If I could go back. You can't. That's the point. You made choices. You lived by them. Now you're dying by them. That's cold. That's consequence. He hung up without another word. The bankruptcy proceedings were public. Brutal. Everything exposed. The press tore through Valemont's finances. Discovered years of mismanagement. Nepotism. Inflated contracts to vendors owned by Martin's friends. Projects that existed only on paper to impress shareholders. Will's name appeared in several questionable deals. Nothing criminal, but enough to stain his reputation permanently. The trial by public opinion was merciless. And through it all, Novavale kept growing. We'd quintupled our original size. Offices in 3 cities. Partnerships with Fortune 500 companies. Industry awards recognizing our innovation and ethical practices. Everything Valemont claimed to be, we actually were. One afternoon, I received a letter. Handwritten. Expensive stationery. Return address I didn't recognize. Inside was a note from Will. Rowena, I'm moving away. Leaving the industry. Starting over somewhere no one knows the Vale name. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even deserve acknowledgement. I just wanted you to know that watching you succeed has been the most painful and necessary education of my life. You were right about everything. I hope wherever life takes you, it's extraordinary. You've earned it. Will. I read it twice, then filed it away, not because it changed anything, but because closure sometimes comes in unexpected forms. Janet Monroe called that evening. Heard Vailmont's finally dead. How are you feeling? Honestly?
Fine.
It doesn't feel like victory. Just feels like the end of a chapter one stopped reading months ago. That's growth, kid. Revenge is sweetest when you don't even taste it. When you're too busy building something better to care about the wreckage behind you. You think I did the right thing? Turning down the acquisition? Absolutely. You didn't need their broken pieces. You proved that loud and clear. She was right. The bankruptcy auction happened in October.
Cold.
Clinical. Assets sold to strangers. The Vailmont name disappeared from the industry. And I never looked back. Because the real victory wasn't watching them fall. It was realizing I didn't need them to fall for me to rise. I'd already risen. Built something extraordinary. Created jobs. Changed lives. Their collapse was just background noise. What happens when the company that betrayed you crumbles completely? When everything they built turns to dust? If you've moved on, if you've built something better, their ending doesn't define your beginning. You're already too far ahead to care. 2 years after walking out of Vailmont Industries, I stood in front of a brand new building. Glass and steel. Modern.
Clean.
The Novavale logo gleaming in afternoon sun. Our third office. This one in the city, where Vailmont once stood. Poetic? Maybe. Petty?
Possibly.
Satisfying? Absolutely. We'd hired 200 employees, landed contracts with 6 Fortune 500 companies, built a reputation for innovation, integrity, and respect. Everything Vailmont pretended to be. Marcus joined me on the sidewalk. Big day. Huge day. Think anyone from the old guard will notice? I don't care if they do. And that was the truth. The final stage of healing. Not just surviving. Not just succeeding. But genuinely not caring about the opinions of people who tried to erase you. That evening, we hosted an opening celebration. Employees. Clients.
Partners.
People who believed in what we built. Diana gave a toast. To Rowena Vale, who taught us that walking away isn't weakness. It's wisdom. And that the best revenge is building something so successful, your enemies become irrelevant. The room erupted in applause. Later, as I stood on the rooftop terrace, looking out over the city, Sarah approached. You ever think about them? Wonder what they're doing now? Honestly?
No. I used to.
The first few months, I'd check their social media. Read articles. Track their downfall like it mattered. But somewhere along the way, I stopped caring. They became background noise. That's how you know you've won. Maybe. Or maybe there was never competition. Just me, building the life I deserved. She smiled. Either way, this is incredible. What you built. What we all built together. That was the thing. Novavale wasn't just my victory. It was ours. A company built on collaboration, not theft. On respect, not erasure. The next morning, I received an unexpected email from a university requesting me as keynote speaker for their business leadership program. The topic, resilience, ethics, and strategic success. I accepted immediately. A month later, I stood in front of 300 students.
Young.
Ambitious. Ready to conquer the world. You'll meet people who try to take credit for your work, I said. Who mistake your kindness for weakness. Who believe silence means you won't fight back. And when that happens, you have choices. You can scream. You can fight. You can burn bridges.
Or you can do what I did.
You can protect yourself quietly. Document everything. Build your own foundation. And when they finally push you out, You walk away with everything that actually mattered. A student raised her hand. But didn't you want revenge? I smiled. I wanted justice. There's a difference. Revenge is loud, messy. It consumes you. Justice is quiet, strategic. It happens when you succeed so completely that your betrayers become irrelevant. So, you never got even? I got better. That's more powerful than even. The applause felt different than the gala. Not polite, not performative, genuine. After the speech, students lined up to ask questions, share stories, tell me about their own battles with toxic workplaces and stolen credit. I listened to every single one, because that's what this was really about. Not my victory, not Vailmont's fall, but showing others that you can survive erasure. You can rebuild. You can win. And you don't need permission from the people who tried to destroy you. That night, I sat in my office. Quiet. Peaceful. The city lights flickering below. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Ms. Vale, this is Richard Stanton. I wanted to let you know. The Vailmont name is officially dissolved. Assets sold. Building demolished last week. It's gone. Completely. And I wanted you to hear it from someone who saw it all. You were right. About everything. Congratulations on your success. I thanked him, hung up, and felt nothing. Because that chapter wasn't just closed. It was forgotten. What happens when the company that tried to erase you gets erased instead? When their legacy crumbles while yours grows. You realize revenge was never necessary. Success was always enough. 5 years after the day I walked out, Nova Vale became a case study. Harvard Business School, Stanford, Wharton, major universities teaching about ethical business practices, employee loyalty, and strategic resilience. They used my story as an example, not just the fall of Vailmont, but the rise of Nova Vale, how trust builds empires, how respect creates loyalty, how quiet strategy defeats loud arrogance. I was invited to speak at corporate conferences worldwide, not as a victim sharing trauma, but as a leader sharing wisdom. The narrative had shifted completely. Marcus became CEO when I stepped into the chairman role. He'd earned it, led the company through expansions I couldn't have imagined. Diana built our legal department into something formidable, protected employees, championed transparency. Zara revolutionized our operations, created systems other companies tried to copy. The 20 people who'd followed me that day, they were now leaders, mentors, proof that loyalty, when earned, creates foundations that last. One afternoon, I received a package. No return address. Inside was a newspaper clipping. Martin Vale, 1945 to 2030. Businessman and former CEO of Vailmont Industries, dies at 85. The obituary was short. Mentioned his business, his family, his legacy, but mostly it mentioned his fall. I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No sadness. Just acknowledgement. Another chapter closed. A week later, an email from an unknown address. Subject line: Thank you. Ms. Vale, you don't know me. I'm a young manager at a tech company. My boss has been taking credit for my work for 2 years. I was going to quit. Give up. But then I watched your speech. Read your story. And I realized I could protect myself. Document everything. Build my own foundation. I just filed paperwork for my own company. I'm leaving next month. And I wanted to say thank you for showing me that quiet people aren't powerless. We're strategic. You changed my life. I read it 3 times. Then replied, You changed your own life. I just showed you it was possible. Go build something extraordinary. That's what this was always about. Not revenge. Not even justice. But proving that erasure isn't permanent. That betrayal isn't the end. That you can lose everything and still win. 10 years after walking out, Nova Vale went public. Stock market debut. Opening bell ceremony. Cameras flashing. I stood with my team. The people who'd believed when no one else did. Who'd followed me into uncertainty and helped build something remarkable. As the bell rang, I thought about that conference room. The 5 minutes I was given to clear my desk. The humiliation meant to break me. And I smiled. Because they gave me 5 minutes to leave. But I took those 5 minutes and built a legacy that would outlast their entire empire. The best revenge isn't destruction. It's creation. Building something so successful, so ethical, so extraordinary that your betrayers become forgotten footnotes in your story. If this journey resonated with you, if you've ever been underestimated, erased, or betrayed, know this. Your story isn't over. Your silence isn't weakness. Your patience isn't surrender. You're just getting started. Subscribe to this channel for more stories of quiet victories and strategic comebacks. Turn on notifications so you never miss proof that dignity defeats arrogance every single time. Drop a comment sharing your story, your moment of walking away, your journey to something better. Your words might inspire someone standing at their own crossroads. Like this video if you believe success is the best revenge. Share it with someone who needs permission to walk away from toxicity. Welcome to a community that knows the truth. You don't need to destroy your enemies. You just need to become so successful they become irrelevant. See you in the next story. Until then, keep building. Keep rising. Keep proving them wrong. Because quiet people don't quit. We calculate. We prepare. And we win.